All right. Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from across the state today. And we are so glad that you can join us for our April's Find Your Why webinar. We've got a really exciting panel today. We're going to dig into our panelists' why they're going to college. I'll talk a little bit about my experience as well. But first, just a few quick housekeeping items before we introduce our panelists today. So for our audience members, you are going to be able to interact with us today. I've got some questions that I'm going to run through with our panel, but we certainly want to hear from you. So you will notice that you are deleted and your cameras are turned off, but you are able to interact with us today. Down at the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A box as well as a chat box. You can ask your questions there. I'm going to make sure to save some time at the end so that any questions that you have for our panelists, you will be able to ask. And with that, we will kind of hop in today. Also, let everyone know this will be recorded. So if you'd like to come back and watch this later, you have to leave us a little bit early. You'll have access to this video. First, I'm Graeme Thomas at tnAchieves. I've been here. I'm our Deputy Director of Partnerships now. I've been here for about 11 and a half years since we were just in Knox County. So been with the program for a while as it's grown into tnAchieves and with the launch of Tennessee Promise. And want to thank all of our panelists for being here. Why don't we start out? Isaiah, you're in the top left of my screen, so why don't we start with you? If you'll just tell us who you are, where you're from. You're one of our student panelists, so where you're in college, what you plan to do.
Okay, my name is Isaiah Wesby. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I go to Carson Newman University, close to Knoxville. So my major is political science.
Awesome. Thanks, Isaiah. John, you want to keep rolling with the student part of the panel here?
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Just making sure. Okay, my name is John Flyfell. I'm from Johnson City. I've been here my whole life. I'm a freshman over at Northeast State Community College, which I should say, a very good community college it is. My major is chemistry with a side thing going on to chemical process operations.
Awesome. Director Rauch, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. David Rauch, Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. We're headquartered in Nashville. Obviously, we have offices throughout the state. I've been with the Bureau for 3 years now. Prior to that, I was the Chief of Police in Knoxville, where I spent 25 years working for the Knoxville Police Department. The last 7, I was Chief. In terms of my background, I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, went to the University of Louisville. Actually, before that, I went to Jefferson Community College in Louisville, and then moved over to the University of Louisville. Earned my bachelor's in political science, and then went back later and earned my master's in justice administration. Spent a little time in the U.S. Army, about 4 years with the military police. Prior to going back to get my master's and then getting into policing.
Awesome. Megan, why don't you finish out this round of introductions for us?
Sure. So I am Megan Barker, and I am a STEM teacher for Dyer County Schools. I teach middle school right now, and I love middle school. A lot of people will say, oh no, middle school, but they're my absolute favorite. And I went to school at University of Tennessee at Martin, got a bachelor's in elementary education, then came back to Martin for a master's in curriculum and instruction. So this is my 3rd year being a tnAchieves mentor, and the program just gets better and better. Made some great changes this year. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us. I think we've really got the whole state represented. We've got our students from Memphis and Johnson City. That's about as far away as you can get there. And then Dyer County, Knoxville, Director Rauch in Nashville now. I'm also coming to you from Nashville. And so our panel this month is really kind of diving into going to college for a specific degree, a specific career, a very specific interest. I went to the University of Tennessee quite a while ago now. I graduated from Franklin High School in 2004. And I was that kid that in 2000 became glued to the television when we had a presidential election that wasn't called on election night and went on for a few weeks. And I really kind of became, I would say, like a political nerd as a 15-year-old at the time. And when I went to the University of Tennessee, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I took a trip my junior year of college with the program that I graduated from. We went to Washington, D.C., where we met with several of our alums, and I was dead set on a career in politics. I was a communication major, so that set up fairly nicely to potentially transition into a political career after college. Came back and interned for a local congressman the summer before I graduated from college, and then went to work for her in DC. Spent about 6 to 9 months in DC working for her Washington, DC office. And, it felt very far away from the campaign work that we were doing. The campaign work felt like we were really out in the community, meeting with the constituents that we were supposed to serve. And DC felt very far away from that. And so transitioned back to Knoxville and ultimately found my way here at tnAchieves. I'll talk a little bit more about that journey. But Director Rauch, why don't we start with you? It sounds like you knew going into college that you were interested in some type of career in law enforcement. What drew you to that field?
Yeah, so really kind of, first I want to say, Graeme, I think one of the messages that we need to help all of our students understand is embrace your nerd. Right. And so I became a policing nerd early on. Right. And that just it enthused me. It was a profession that I saw as honorable and something that really would meet the core desires I had to serve others. And so, and so I went into college kind of thinking that was the area, looking at it and wanting to help people. So, in junior college, as a matter of fact, the program I was in junior college was called Help and Human Services. And so did that, and which led me into, into the big university, as I call it, go to the University of Louisville to study political science. Now, obviously a little different. It wasn't specific to policing, but the understanding the whole process of politics and government and is critical for this role to serve in law enforcement. And so, after graduating college, went to the U.S. Army, where I did start getting my feet wet in policing as a military police officer, learning kind of how our military does it. It was really an interesting transition there. Coming back to the civilian side was really getting into then hammering down on the profession, and that my studies in justice administration really focusing in on understanding the higher levels of policing and community relations and all of that critical as we move forward. But I think the key here is again, as you were saying, the whole purpose is talking about your why. And and I knew my why early on was to serve, and policing was the path that I thought was the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan, what about you? You went in as an elementary education major. You're still teaching today. Why did you go to college, and why did you ultimately choose the major and profession that you have?
Well, I took a bit of a circuitous route to teaching. A lot of teachers say, oh, I have a calling for teaching. That wasn't exactly me. And that's something that I tell kids too, is you don't necessarily have to have a calling or pull for it. I actually started out as a biology major at Austin Peay State University and was going to be an x-ray technician. And after not getting into the program after my sophomore year of college, I had to reroute a little bit. And to be perfectly honest, I just had a lot of credits toward the elementary education field. And after talking to my friends and family and, is this the path I need to go down? I went ahead and applied, and I still wasn't 100% that's what I wanted to do, because you don't really know until you get that actual classroom experience. I mean, you think that's what you want to do, but teaching is definitely one of those careers that you have to fake it till you make it. And I got into the classroom and I was like, you know what? I can do this. I'm pretty good at this. And so, yeah, 11 years later, here I am. I'm still hopefully impacting future generation of learners and helping them forge their own path. So that's definitely one of the things I talk to my students about is it's okay if you don't know what you want to do when you get to college. It's okay if you haven't figured it out yet. That's what college can be for, is figuring out exactly what your path is going to be. It's okay to fail. It's okay to change direction. It's okay to do something different than you originally anticipated.
Yeah, I think I left out part of my story. I started college in the pre-dental field, really because I was kind of forced into picking a major at my orientation, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And after a semester of, and John's going to talk to us about this, but after a semester of biology and chemistry, I decided really quickly that was not what I wanted to do. And then I went business, and then I went communication. So you can certainly change your major a few times and still come out on the other end. Isaiah, tell us, why did you go to college? What was your motivation?
I went to college to be the first person in my family to break generations curses. So pretty much that back at home, nobody in my family went to college, or they all went to like trade schools or just other type of schools. So I was the first person to go to college because I wanted to make a name for myself, and I wanted to be somebody in the world and be able to just make an impact to the world. So that's why I went to college, because just with academics, I have to do more than athletics and just have both, just try to make a name for yourself and try to impact the world.
So what are you studying? What do you want to do?
I'm studying political science because, why not?
Yeah, why not? I think in a video that we recorded with you previously, you talked about potentially going back and making an impact on your community. Maybe that's Memphis, where you're from. Maybe it's where you are now, or maybe it's an undecided location. But why is that important?
Because pretty much you want to be able to impact the future lives of future kids and for the next generation to come. We all getting older, and how things are going on in the world right now, we do need some more help. We do need some more politicians and more political figures. We need more people to impact the mind of our children and our youth and our kids. We need people who can be able to show people that you don't have to be a certain type of way. You don't have to be a certain type of this. You can just be yourself, and you can be able to make a change in the world. So
absolutely, that's really great. John, what about you? Why did you go to college? What was your motivation to go?
Well, I have an older brother who also attended Northeast State, but he didn't attend until he was about 21. And he told me, he said, just don't wait, just go, just do it first. And especially being able to have that opportunity of a free 2 years of community college, I was like, that's amazing. And they said, hey, but you can't have it unless you go now. And I was like, say no more, I'll do it now and I'll figure it out. Plus, I was always one of those, I've been called weird ever since I was a little kid. It was just fine by me because as long as you're self-aware, I think it's okay. I call myself weird mainly because I was one of those kids that always loved going to school. I loved going to school ever since elementary school. And my dad, who I'm surprised didn't walk in the back here, he always told me, he said, you never need to stop learning. Never stop learning. He said, I'd go back to college forever if I could. Yeah, absolutely. He said, I would still be studying in college if I could, just because he loves learning so much. So I'd say that's probably part of the inspiration. And that's also the reason that I'm taking so many classes. Oh boy, so many classes. It's just because I see this opportunity of they're like, hey, you don't have to pay for your classes for this amount of time. And some people say, oh, just make it easy, take just all the core classes. But the thing is that if I have the opportunity to learn all those, and then I need to absolutely seize all the opportunities that I can take. And especially, I know it'll benefit me, and I know it'll benefit my family in the future. Plus, sometimes you just need random trivia knowledge for some of the classes too. So it's always fun being able to tell people some random facts that I have in my head.
It's always good to be useful in a trivia team, right?
Sure, that's it.
I'm going to certainly come back to this theme that you talked about being a lifelong learner. I think it's something that's really, really important. But before we dive into that, tell us what you're studying and kind of what you think it is you're going to do or what you plan to do.
So right now, like I said, I'm in chemistry, and fortunately, I mentioned this in a video that I'd made, which is that I was fortunate enough to know exactly what I wanted to do ever since I was little. We have, oh, where is it? Oh, yeah, it's right here. This huge, it's a DK Science Encyclopedia, and this book is huge. And like I mentioned, is that it's been used because it's not even in the cover anymore. But ever since I was little, there's been all sorts of topics in there relating to chemistry, chemicals. We have the periodic table right there, and I always knew that I wanted to go into chemistry, even if I didn't know specifically what I was trying to go for. And I've just been learning it over time. I was really fortunate enough to still enjoy chemistry when I started taking my chemistry classes in high school. And I'm really enjoying it now too. For the near future, right now, I'm words. Anyway, for the near future, I'm looking to go over to a place like Eastman. I want to go to UT, but the thing is with that chemical process operations certificate, you can actually go and start working at Eastman, and sometimes Eastman will actually send you back to go back to college to learn even more, which would be, and they'll help pay for it while you're working for them, and that's just such a good option. That was a talk about how like Megan said, about how teachers can impact what you want to do. My sophomore year, chemistry teacher, he told us, he gave us a whole life plan of how to go into chemistry, and it included going to Northeast, going through at least the 1-year program, getting the certificate so you can start being a lab analyst at Eastman, and then they'll send you back through, and you can keep getting more and more. And so far, hey, it's worked pretty good. So I guess he knew what he was talking about. I'm not sure if I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I can talk about what kind of chemistry I'm thinking about going into, at least.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. I do want to remind our audience that if you would like to ask our panelists questions, you do have the opportunity to do so using the chat box at the bottom or the Q&A box. We are certainly going to set some time aside to handle audience questions before this is over. Megan, I'm going to come back to you next. You mentioned you kind of stumbled into your degree program there, that you had tried some different things, but how has working with students and becoming a teacher, do you think that's changed your passion at all and made you appreciate your college experience in a different way?
I mean, absolutely. You can be a teacher, of course, without going to college. So I think that it's incredibly important. And if only because you get the pedagogy, you get the experience that you otherwise may not have normally accrued. I'm from Dyersburg, Tennessee, which is a very, very small town north of Memphis, West Tennessee. So my learning experience in public schools were very limited. Pretty much everyone around me looked like me. They talked like me. They had the same values and beliefs as me. So going to college was incredibly important to open up my worldview and to understand that there are people that are different from me. And how can I take that knowledge and go back to my hometown and impact students who are growing up in a different environment than me? And for me, that's my students of color, my students that are a member of the LGBTQ community, students that are growing up in poverty. My worldview was just like eye-opening when I got to college, especially going to Austin Peay for 2 years, because Clarksville is such a large area and feeds in from many different areas. So as a result of my college experience, I felt like I was able to come back to my hometown and go, okay, I've got a little bit of life experience now. I've got a little bit of a different worldview. And that just opened the floodgates for me, because I am super into politics. I'm super into constantly learning about the world and what's going on in the world, and how I, as this, this woman from West Tennessee, can change my corner of the world. And one of those ways, of course, is to be a teacher. And of course, my position in the public schools is, you don't just come out and tell everyone what you think about everything, but I encourage kids to form their own opinions, form their own worldviews, to figure out exactly how to read the news, how to understand your own biases, how the world that we grow up in influences so many things. So that's one of my goals for sure as a STEM teacher. And now is I get the opportunity to talk to kids that you don't have to follow one path. Just because your parents did this or your dad did that doesn't mean you have to do that as well. And Dyersburg is a very big factory town, which is great. We are so blessed to have factories in town that we can feed our population into, but we also have the opportunity to encourage kids to go into trade schools and to engineering and to mechanics, and all of those huge possibilities, especially our girls and our students of color. I want to see you do something different. I want to see you go out into this world and make a change. And hopefully I'm achieving that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Director Rauch, I'm going to go to you next. Sounds like, unlike Megan and I, you kind of charted a career path for yourself, and sounds like you've stuck with it for a few years now. If you had told me that I was ever going to work for an education nonprofit, I probably would have first asked you what that means, and certainly would not have thought I'd be there for almost 12 years now. But you decided that this law enforcement path was the path for you, and you've been doing that for a few years now. When you started your career, were there any surprises, anything that caught you off guard, and what's continued to drive you for the entirety of your career?
Yeah, thanks, Graeme. So yeah, obviously, I started the career. Not a lot of surprises. I think what more than anything is just the great opportunities I was provided by those leaders that I worked with and worked for, and they really helped me along the way, right? So I tell folks, nobody makes it on their own. We all have somebody who lifts us up and carries us and gives us those opportunities, and and then it's up to us, right, to then take those opportunities, seize them, and show what we're capable of. And so I was, throughout my career, I've had great leaders who've given me those opportunities, right? And so the not really surprises within what I do, but more of just appreciative of the great leaders who were smart enough to open the doors for me and give me the opportunity to show my abilities and skills and knowledge, and even to gain those skills and knowledge through a number of programs in policing. And so I've gone through a lot of different professional development programs and leadership programs, and all of which have built, my ability to do what I do, and to have the skill and the knowledge that I have. And so, and then it's sharing it and moving it forward yourself, right? Is opening up those doors for others and providing those opportunities is absolutely key and critical. What's been amazing to me is just the power that one person can have in policy, procedure, and practice in a profession. And I've been blessed again with the opportunities. I've been able to sit down now with 3 presidents and have conversations about policing and helping them understand what this profession is capable of, and where we understand where we've been, but we also know what the path is going forward, and we're working toward that, and the support that we need is critical, and that's what I've been able to express to them, working on a number of great national boards and with organizations nationally to help hammer that message out and help other leaders throughout our country, quite frankly, throughout the world in our policing profession, understand what our role is and how important it is for us to be engaged and connected with our communities. And so really the opportunities, I think, are the biggest, not really a surprise, but the biggest piece, I think, for all of us, regardless of what it is that you get engaged in, is when those doors open, jump through head first, right? And get in there full throttle and show what you're capable of and embrace it. It's scary, but if you make it through the fear, you're going to make it to really make a change. And again, I've just been blessed with those opportunities. Most recent, serving with on the President's Commission for Law Enforcement, and we worked hard for a year to hammer out all of the things that we feel the future of policing looks like. The last presidential commission was in 55 years ago. And so to be able to do that today, to make that difference, it was an honor. And hopefully the work we did won't go, won't sit on a shelf. As the previous commission, it'll become the future of our profession.
Josh, I think a lot of times when we think about policing and law enforcement, we think about things like traffic stops and some of those things, but there's also a ton of work that you do in the community. I saw that you were in Knoxville yesterday, and we certainly want to send our thoughts to the Austin East community. Our program started in Knox County in 2008, and I've been to Austin East myself many, many times. So certainly want to send our thoughts to them, but talk about how that's changed over the years, and what did your college experience, how did that help inform your work in that community kind of piece?
Oh, absolutely. So I would tell you what I learned throughout my college profession, right? So in the early years of college, and then in my advanced degrees, it was really about the importance for policing, right? So policing goes back, the very first tenets of policing were created by Sir Robert Peel back in England, 1859, right? So that's how far back we go with policing as a profession. His tenets, those 9 principles that he created, are alive and fresh today. And if we just follow them, right, then policing will be what it should be. And they're a hard challenge. They're a lofty goal to hit, but we can do it. And so those are the things I learned. And it's all around community engagement. It's all around being involved. And so I really embraced that when I was in Knoxville, working on the streets. Initially understood that, policing, you can't get anything done without the willingness of the community, right? And so you have to work in tandem. You got to work together in concert to make sure that people are safe. And and I think, again, with the tragedy that we saw yesterday, it's another reminder of the importance of that engagement and that working together to keep those types of things from happening, right? I can't go into a whole lot of the details of that, but I think what we'll learn is there's opportunities with all of these types of situations. There's opportunities for engagement. There's opportunities for folks to be involved and to intervene. And so I think some of that was early on looking at it. Some opportunities were missed, but there were also some good things that happened. So I think key and critical, what I learned through my formal education, was the importance of understanding our history and understanding what is the science behind what we do. And there's a lot of science in policing. And what works and how to get that engagement to make things work, right? I think those are the critical pieces.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your insight on that. Isaiah, let's go to you next. You mentioned earlier that not only are you a student at Carson-Newman, you're also an athlete at Carson-Newman. How do you think your participation in athletics will shape your future career? And what do you think you've learned being a student athlete that will help carry you through your career one day?
Being a student athlete, I think it's pretty fun and pretty good. It allows me to be able to correspond with other students of different colors, different races, be able to understand like everybody, just to, I guess, figure out the culture and stuff, you know? I think with athletics, it helps, it's good to go to school for athletics, but also you still at school to get your education, you know, and try to be able to look like athletics is good, but also you want to go there to have education too, because without athletics, you won't have an education because you're gonna need to know contracts, know how to count, know do all the things. So I think it's really good to have both because you have two things you can fall on upon. And then if athletics doesn't work out, you still have a good job in the workforce, in the work world, and be able to make a name for yourself, become somebody, and be able also to let me see what I was thinking. Be able also to, you know, just be able to be financially stable in life, you know, be able to just be okay, I guess.
That's such a good answer.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Isaiah, I know you have a full-time class schedule because you're eligible for Tennessee Promise, and that's one of those requirements. I imagine that your track and field schedule keeps you pretty busy. One of the things that we hear from Tennessee Promise students pretty often is that struggle with time management. Students that are maybe participating in athletics, maybe they're working full-time or part-time. How do you manage your time? What advice would you have for your fellow students out there as they're thinking about juggling their schedules?
Okay, so cool. Even something like this, like right now, I also keep sticky notes. So one of my things to keep time management is I say from being in college, this is one of the biggest things, make you a schedule. A schedule is going to keep you through college. You write down your weekly or your monthly schedule and you give yourself notes and reminders on how to get stuff out the way. Like right now, I have a homework assignment. I got like 2 tests and maybe like an essay I have to do. But I'm saying like you keep it down somewhere where you can see it, like put it on your door, put it on your laptop, something you always gonna look at it. And you just slowly break them down. College is not really hard. It's just a lot of time management. Like I said, be able to just break down all the work down. Like I say, break down these classes because they're not the same class like high school, like every other day, you know, they every other day or they not the same. So you have time. You just really have to stay focused, stay calm, and be able to relax. Find your happy place and find places to like relax yourself and just meet other people. Like I said, also make friends in classes because you're not the only one going through the same struggle. So be able to make friends and make study groups and peers to help you out succeed because we're all going through the same tests and struggles. So just pretty much, I say taking notes, talking to your professors, that's number one. Asking them, trying to get some extra work or extra help on the assignments, trying to go to their study hours. Pretty much, your professors want to see you win. So the only thing you have to do is just reach out and ask them, and everything else will do its part. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I remember for a long time in college, people told me you need to get to know your professors. You need to get to know your professors. They'll might help you find a job one day. And I think it fell on deaf ears for a couple of years. And then I got to know one of my professors who set me up with someone who worked in politics, what I thought I wanted to do, who then set me up with someone that helped me get my first job. So your professors are really such a good resource. And like you said, they want to see you win. I think that's really good advice. All right, John, let's go over to you next. Couple things I want to touch on with you. One, what are your big career goals? You kind of hinted at that earlier, but I feel like you've got this continuous theme of lifelong learning, right? Like even to go get a job, you can continue your education and continue learning. So what is it you're hoping to do in your career?
Well, I didn't really know for a while. For a while, I just knew chemistry, and then I was just kind of flip-flopped all around. This was still in high school, fortunately. It wasn't until probably about sophomore or junior year when I took biology 2, or it was actually called macrobiology then. I didn't really have any interest in biology too much, but whenever I took that class, it was incredible. There was so much going on. And especially one of the things that I ended up, for some reason, getting really, really into was mushrooms. Mushrooms were so fascinating to me, and something that not a lot of people actually know about. is there is a growing field of medical mycology. And that's something that's super interesting to me. I go mushroom hunting, and actually, by the way, for anybody that's listening to this, it's prime time for hunting morels. Putting out there the best. Oh my gosh, those are the best mushrooms. But anyway, that's the nice thing about chemistry, is that there's so many different places that you can go, and there's so many growing opportunities because we're still learning, and we're learning all the time. And so I like the idea of medical mycology for the fact of you're getting to do something that I love, or I'm getting to do something that I love, which is going out and finding mushrooms. And then I get to do even more with them by researching them, figuring out what their uses are and how they can actually help people. Because that's pretty much always the end goal of chemistry, is being able to find more knowledge to benefit us with understanding the world or helping the world. And mushrooms are definitely something that a lot of people haven't touched on, and we haven't learned that much about until the past 50 to 100 years. So right now, after that biology class, it's made me a lot more interested in that as a field, in interconnecting biology and chemistry. Although I should say I also cook. I cook a lot. So food science is not off the table, because what an awesome job of being able to do chemistry and then eat food and drink stuff to make it even better and tastier, and have that as your job. Like, what a good opportunity. That sounds like a two A pluses for me. Right there.
We call that a win-win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, yeah. My chemistry teacher, oh, he's amazing. He's doing his classes for fun because he loves seeing people succeed, like you guys had mentioned. And he's from Zimbabwe, and but he's here, and he is a chemist for Tempur-Pedic. And so I asked him, I said, so what I'm hearing is you get the best mattresses out of anybody here. And he goes, yes, I do. And I was like, heck yeah. So there's a lot of benefits to being in chemistry. It's not all just random chemicals going everywhere. There's definitely all sorts of benefits to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Megan, I want to ask you about something. You did a Find Your Why video with us. I think everyone on this panel now has maybe done a Find Your Why video with us. But in your video, you said that students should figure out what problem they want to solve and go solve it. I think this is maybe another way that, like Director Rauch said, embrace your inner nerd. What did you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, so one of my favorite quotes that really inspired me as a teacher, I'm just going to read it word for word. It was Jamie Kassab. She's a Google Global Education Evangelist, and she was giving a talk on career counseling advice in the new economy. And she said this, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, this is great. I really love this. And so it was, don't ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, but what problems do they want to solve? This changes the conversation from who do I want to work for to what do I need to learn to be able to do that. And I just thought that was so impactful, because so often we do ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they just, give out random answers, usually based on their interest at the time. I'm going to be an astronaut because I love the planets, or, I'm going to be a brain surgeon because I think it's really cool to do surgery. And you're like, okay, sure, go for it. But, as kids get older, that shifts and reality sets in, and maybe they, have understood that their interests are shifting as well. And so instead of trying to figure out what do you want to do with your life, because for me, that answer changes. I'm kind of like John, like if I could go back to college right now, I would go back and get another degree in something, because my answer to that question, what problem do I want to solve, has shifted over the years. And it's a different answer. I would give you a different answer now than I would give you 10 years ago when I started teaching. Because for me, the problem now is, how can I inspire kids to break out of their comfort zones and figure out what they want to do with their lives? And asking that, what problem do you want to solve, narrows that focus to what skills can I give you? what skills can I teach you to help you get there? Maybe you don't know that you want to be an engineer right now, but you do know that climate change is a problem and you're really passionate about climate change or whatever that problem is. What can I do for you right now to put you on that path for problem solving in the future? We probably, none of us are at a point where we thought we were going to be in our lives, especially 5-10 years ago. But if you have the skills that you need, you can translate that to multiple platforms. And so that skill building to me is more important than the overall goal of what are you going to be when you grow up? Because I'm 35 and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still asking myself that question. Because if, like I said, if I could go back to college right now, I would, because the problem for me is different than it used to be.
Absolutely. I really like that. I really like some of these themes that we have here. We certainly have these lifelong learner themes going, finding your passion and exploring them. John and Isaiah, we have a question from a mentor that is watching the panel right now. What advice would you have for mentors that are working with Tennessee Promise students right now?
Let's see.
You want to go first?
You just go first. So
Okay.
pick up.
Yeah, I'll let you. You get a little thinking going on. You know what? I've really appreciated the mentors in the fact of giving us the texts and everything, because there are definitely other places where it's just notifications, and sometimes I'll still reply to those notifications, and then obviously nothing comes back. But I was really surprised whenever I responded to a notification from the mentors, and then I got it. They like texted me back, and I was like, "Whoa! I didn't know you could do that." So it was, it was pretty nice. Especially, I got to talk to Ben Sterling. He was him and one of the other people who had messaged me is the reason that I did a video for Find Your Why, because they had just hello, it's the dogs. Anyway, they had messaged and just said, "Hey, this is here." And then I did it, and I was like, "Wow, what a just a fun thing to do." And so whenever I needed to ask questions, it was nice having somebody that was an actual human being that was not so robotic, so I don't know, typical. It almost seems. It was a lot easier because it seemed more casual of a conversation rather than something that was so scripted and everything. So I really appreciate the personalities and the excitedness to help people. It's definitely it shows. It definitely shows.
All right, I think I'm ready. All right, so pretty much the advice I can give y'all is the build a connection with your people. Like what he's saying, like check on us, because college is not easy. I can say there's good parts and then there's also bad parts if we're being real. So be able to constantly check up on us, asking them how they doing, just little fun little checkups, or even just trying to encourage somebody to chase their dreams, encouraging them to fulfill their future, fulfill what they go into school for, because if we're being honest, a lot of people doesn't make it to the end of college. So to be able to encourage people from the start, from fight to finish, to say, keep going. We only got 2 weeks of school left. How's your grades looking? How's class looking? Are you doing anything to prepare for the next semester? Or if they may text you back and be like, class may be a little bit hard, invest some time. Okay, is there anything I can do to just know that we have somebody else on our side besides our family, our peers, and our people from our school? We got the Tennessee people. They have our back also. That we have a lot of people behind us. So pretty much just doing everything in their power to help us out. So I like that. I agree with everything you said by them texting us. And like I said, it's not being a robot, because it's kind of weird when you just going by your day and somebody instantly texts you like, "What is this?" I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then you're like, "Oh, well, I guess since I'm bored, let me try to text back and see what it's going to say." But then it was a real person. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, it's just not a one text response and then it's just over with. It's a one text and you get a response, then you have to go like back and forth like 5-6 times. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'll talk to you later then. So pretty much like how they interact with us, like I said, it's all about interaction and getting people to step out of their comfort zone, getting people to know that it's okay to be yourself, it's okay to be different, it's okay to follow your dreams and your paths, because you only get one chance to be great and you got to take it right now when we at our fullest.
Oh gosh, yeah. That was something that I forgot that they had asked to give advice, and you started giving the advice, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that. I would give that same advice, which is that definitely check up on the people, because you start to realize once you put a little more effort into it, people will definitely start opening up to you for that reason if it's different than what you're normally used to, and so just that little bit of effort. Where it seems like you genuinely care, that it definitely helps to get through to people.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And for any of our students that are watching right now, our mentors are real people. 2 of them are on the panel here. They are real people that are reaching out, that are investing their time in you. They are volunteers that are just simply here to make sure that you are successful.
I didn't know they were volunteers. Wow.
They are volunteers. Ben is not. Ben is paid to be on our staff. He gets paid to be but the other 2 on the panel here are volunteers. We have about 9,000 mentors across the state every year. Several of them come from education, like Megan, which seems like a logical place for our mentors to come from, right? They're already working in education, obviously value education. About a third of those 9,000 people come from our business community, which if students like Isaiah and John go to college and they graduate and they're successful, makes sense, right? They're going to benefit. They're going to have new students, new entries into the workforce that they can hire. Director Rauch, the TBI has been extremely supportive of our program over the last few years. Have helped us out with some technical things. We have several mentors from the TBI. Why is it important? Why do you think it's important that an organization like the TBI is involved in support of a program like Tennessee Promise?
Yeah, thanks, Graeme. I want to comment on a couple things and then I'll hit that. One is I want to comment about what both Isaiah and John hit on, and that is, and you mentioned, is this is about real people. That's what we're seeing on this call, right? Is, we're hearing from real people, right? And the mentors are real people and the mentees are real people. And it's really about the interest of helping, right? And raising up our future, right? And so with the Bureau, that's part of it. Is a big piece of our engagement is we want to see people succeed, right? And then I also see this as this is a great opportunity for 2 things. One is for our folks within the Bureau to be engaged in a community level, because it's difficult for us because we have a statewide mission, and so it's hard because I don't have a specific location that we can involve and engage ourselves in. So we engage throughout the state, and this is what Tennessee Achieves provides for us, is that opportunity to engage throughout the state, because it's in almost every county, and so that's huge. But we also see the value, right? The value of education. Education is a community safety function, right? And the smarter we get, the more education we get, the less likely we are to engage in criminal activity. There's been numerous studies done on that. And so it behooves us as a profession to see young people get educated, because we know that what it will do is it will rise them up, right? It will help them see that there is a great future in using the skills that they learn. And so, in a very positive and legal way. And so it benefits us as a state to have every one of these young people learn everything they can, learn their purpose in life, find their passion, as Megan was talking about. There's a quote, and I forget to who it is attached, but if it says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I feel like that I've lived that, right? With the passion and love that I have for this profession and what I do every day. I'm amazed that, the surprise is they pay me for it. That's what the surprise is. And they pay me really well. And so it's that benefit of getting to do what you love to do and finding what that is. Right. And I encourage anyone as they get involved. I can see the passion in Isaiah and in John and even in Megan in what they do. And that's what you've got to do, is find that passion, right? What is it you enjoy, and lock in on that thing that you enjoy and find a way of making that into your life's journey. And I think that's key. And again, the engagement by TBI has been, we see the great value of what Tennessee Achieves does and the Tennessee Promise is. And we believe in it, and that's why we invest in it.
We certainly appreciate your partnership and everything that you and the TBI have done for us over the years. Megan, I'll go to you next. When we survey our college students, two of the most popular fields are always medical and education. So what advice do you have for students that are thinking about getting that maybe want to go into teaching or counseling or something in the education field?
My biggest advice would be to get involved in your school system right now. I don't care if you're a freshman. I don't care if you're a high school senior, sophomore, junior, whatever year you're in high school or college, is to get involved right now. We see the biggest decline in teachers when they enter that last year and of college, which is really unfortunate, because you've spent 4 years thinking that's what you want to do, and then you get into the classroom in year 4 and you go, oh, wait a minute, maybe this isn't what I want to do. Because teaching is hard. Teaching, it is a difficult profession to be in, and I love it and I pour my heart into it. But I would hate for anyone to wait till year 4 to figure out that's not what they want to do. And especially because it's not an easily transferable career path. So volunteer at your schools, be a substitute teacher. You don't have to be a certified teacher to be a substitute teacher in a lot of areas. Be a mentor to kids at school. Especially if you feel like you have a life experience that you can offer and connect to kids. And it doesn't even have to be high school kids. It can be, elementary and middle school. We need mentors in middle school. Those are some critical 3 years where they are really making paths to who they're going to be. And so if you think education is what you want to do, I encourage you strongly to get involved now and start working with kids, start getting in the classroom if you can. Reach out to people that you had as a teacher and say, I would love to come see your classroom. Can I hook that up? Because if you asked me if you could walk into my STEM classroom, I'd say, come on, come see what we're doing. It's great, but it gives you a really good idea is that's what you really want to do, just to be really sure.
That's really good advice. I think it's always good to find internship opportunities, your community service opportunity for students. Use those hours to explore your future career path and find out if that's something that you really want to do. Isaiah and John, we got another question for you. The question is, what keeps you the most motivated throughout the school year? So we know you're juggling a lot of things. We know that it's probably overwhelming at times, all those tests and track practices and all those different things you've already talked about. But what is that one thing that keeps you motivated and keeps you working hard to ultimately graduate?
Go first on this one. To get a degree. That's what keeps me motivated, to get a degree and to walk across the stage with a degree into the workforce. And pretty much what keeps me motivated, because I just you want to be different. You want to have a high education. You want to be able to be somebody in the world. Like I say that all the time, because like I said, in the real world, you need a degree for your job. It's all about how you present yourself. It's all about how you speak, how you articulate, and how you present yourself. So I think by having a college degree once I be able to go into the workforce, I can be able to say I'm a valid candidate for whatever job I want, or I can be a valid candidate for not even myself, but for future generations, that they can say other people can look up to me, that he went to school, that he really went through the same things. Like I'm motivated by y'all because y'all was able to finish college and y'all was able to get a degree and y'all was able to stay positive, stay motivated. So just to see other people go through the same struggles and the same things I did, it just keeps me motivated, because you never know, 5-10 years later, I could be doing the same thing y'all doing, and I have to tell my story again, or be able to help other people out. So now I'm just looking out for myself, but looking out for future generations to come, be able to help other people find their voice, other young children or young teens and young adults find their voice, find their vision, find their life and their career path, and find what makes them stand out to help the world be a better place. Yes, sir.
That's cool. I especially you made some good points too. I definitely have a hard time quitting things. I ended up I didn't like wrestling. I did wrestling in high school. I didn't like wrestling for the first 2 years really that I did it. I did, but I didn't. But I had such a hard time quitting that I ended up just staying in there until I enjoyed it. But I guess part of it is also that same motivation of you want to be able to get through something from start to finish, because it just doesn't feel good whenever you don't make it through. That was actually some advice that I had never really thought about until this summer. I worked for the U.S. Census, and we were up in Kentucky, and one of the guys that was with us, he looks like Elvis. His name is actually Michael Presley. And he said, well, that's the point of you getting Eagle Scout. He said, whenever you put it on there, employers will hire you because of your Eagle Scout, not just because you received it, but because with that, they know that you took such a commitment and you got all the way you took such an enormous load of work going on, and you finished it for going from start to finish. I mean, that was 9 years of my life dedicated to Boy Scouts, even though I was a bit lazy at the beginning. But that deadlines are a motivation. That's the reason that this year, this semester, instead of like last semester, I've tried to get as many classes as I could in person. And for that reason, because I knew that if I was in class, I would actually I'd have to do my work, because you're going to class, and if you tell your teacher, oh yeah, I didn't do the work, he's going to be like, I told you about it on Tuesday. And then you're like, yeah. So it's that part of you have something that's a deadline, you have something that you're working towards, and you feel like there is an end goal. Actually, because of my classes, because of wanting to take in-person classes, I went to my class early this morning, and then I have to go back to school at 5 o'clock to go to my chemistry class, but it's okay. Because that push to make sure that you have something that is forcing you to just go ahead and do it, it keeps you motivated. I'd absolutely say that's part. Oh, and getting organized. You had mentioned earlier about keeping sticky notes. That is so helpful. I started doing it like last month, and it has way improved my organization. I'm telling you, that is it. It helps you so much to stay motivated when you could see I listed everything that I needed to do. That's what I did. I think we're like agreeing on this right now.
Stay focused. Like the list. Yeah.
The list, because you go down it and you're like, I have to complete this and this, and you can just see everything. So I'd say those are some things that I use.
Like our students are ending us here with some really strong advice and suggestions. I'll open it back up to Megan, Director Rauch. Any final parting words? Looks like we got about a minute left, but any final words of wisdom, advice before we wrap up today?
I'll yield to Megan.
Okay. Just one final quote that I would like to share about the power of education, because I do believe strongly, whether you choose a trade school or you choose a college, or whatever your path may be, I do believe that we should be lifelong learners and never stop learning. So just one final quote to leave you on is also from Jamie Cassatt. I believe deeply in education because in my heart, I know it has the power to disrupt poverty and to change the destiny of a family in just one generation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I would just say that for the mentees and the mentors on here, keep working at it, keep working together, and as a mentee, I tell you to don't hesitate to take advantage of that mentor's knowledge and skills and what they can bring for you. Right? I know it can be awkward. It can be, kind of different because this is a person you've never met, but take the time to get to know them and let them get to know you. You're going to find the great advantage you'll have. What you want to do is you want to stack up these mentors in your life as you progress, because they're going to be the ones that will be there for you as you take those next steps. And they'll get even if it's just a piece of sage advice, right? That's critical in a decision-making moment for you. It's just important, right? And I know it's hard as a young person to see that, but trust me that those are the key. Those connections are key for your future. And so take complete advantage of the men, and every one of them are doing it as was mentioned by Graeme earlier. Every mentor is here as a volunteer. And it's because they have an interest. They want to see you succeed. And so, give it all you got and let them help you.
Excellent. Really good parting advice. Certainly students, reach out and use your mentors, and mentors, keep working with your students. We know that it's making a difference. Sounds like hearing from two of our students today, furthering that it continues to make a difference. Megan, Director Rauch, John, Isaiah, thank you for all so much for being here today. I know that you're busy with school and work and all kinds of other commitments. We certainly appreciate your time and digging into your why. It looks like a few of our audience members may have connected with a few of our panelists in the chat. If you would like to further connect, you can shoot our staff an email and we can help you figure that out. But thanks again so much. We hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Does that mean that they're done on that one?
Yeah.
Or because they still hear me? Because hello.
It's live.
It is live?
Yeah, we're